Chapter 6, Episode 6, A Masawa, Where the Sea Changed My Life. Sometimes the places that shape us are also the places we never forget. When I arrived at Masawa Naval Base, I entered a world completely different from anything I had ever known. Everything was new. Everything felt unfamiliar. Masawa was one of the most beautiful places I had ever seen. The naval base was surrounded by the Red Sea. Wherever you looked, you saw blue water stretching toward the horizon. The sea surrounded nearly 85% of the area. The water itself supported the lives of many people. The hot weather naturally evaporated much of the seawater, leaving behind large fields of pure salt. People harvested the salt and shipped it throughout the country. For me, this was my first experience seeing such a place. Masawa Naval Base and the city of Masawa stood facing each other across the water. Only a narrow bridge connected them. Military landing craft traveled regularly between the naval base and the city, carrying soldiers on liberty. Navy buses were also available. The military hospital stood nearby. Everything was carefully organized. The base itself was beautiful, clean, orderly, disciplined. One Navy word described it perfectly: shipshape. That word stayed with me for the rest of my life. Shipshape meant more than cleaning a ship. It meant taking pride in everything. Your uniform, your shoes, your workplace, your surroundings, even your attitude. It taught us dignity, respect, responsibility. A ship sailing on salty water must constantly be cleaned and maintained. Cleanliness also protected the health of every sailor. If many sailors became sick, the ship could no longer perform its mission. In the Navy, cleanliness was not simply about appearance. It was part of survival. Masawa also introduced me to something I had never experienced before: the heat. I had never imagined weather could become so hot. The sun seemed to burn the skin almost immediately. Sometimes it felt impossible to remain outside for very long. Fortunately, our buildings and many of the ships had powerful air conditioning systems. Otherwise, daily life would have been extremely difficult. Although war surrounded our country, I personally felt safe when I first arrived. The warships were heavily armed, training never stopped. Sirens were part of military life. Preparedness became normal. We learned to stay ready without allowing fear to control us. During those years, my responsibilities included logistics and supply. I issued military uniforms, warship uniforms, equipment. I also sometimes worked undercover in civilian clothing as part of naval security inside Masawa City. If I noticed unusual activity, I immediately reported it to our naval security officers. It was a responsibility that required careful observation. Military life was very different from civilian life. Everyone depended on one another. The Navy taught me something I have never forgotten. A ship cannot move successfully unless every person performs his duty. One section cannot succeed without the others. Teamwork was not simply encouraged, it was required. Perhaps that is why Navy friendships become so strong. We depended on each other every day. One thing many people would never expect about me happened during the hottest hours of the afternoon. After lunch, many sailors rested inside the cool buildings. Most people took naps, but not me. Instead, I walked toward the workshop dumping area. While others rested, I searched for discarded wire, old electrical cables, bronze generator wire, scrap metal, pieces of wood, anything that could become something useful. I never searched because someone ordered me to. I searched because creating things brought me joy. I collected beautiful shells from the Red Sea. I caught small crabs with a net. After carefully drying them in the sun, I created decorative picture frames using shells and the preserved crabs. Each frame became completely unique. I gave many away as gifts. Years later, around 1992, I donated one of those handmade Red Sea decorative frames to the Addis Ababa 4-Kilo Natural Science Museum. Many years later, in 2010, while visiting Ethiopia with my wife, I proudly took her to the museum. Together we stood quietly as I showed her the artwork I had created many years earlier during my Navy service. It was still hanging there. Looking back now, I smile. While many people remember my military service, I also remember creating. Making things with my own hands has always been part of who I am. As a little boy, I built toys from wire. In Masawa, I built picture frames from shells and sea life. I even modified my own bicycle with left and right signal lights. At the time, I thought it was just something fun to do. Years later, during the COVID pandemic, I shared a short Navy memory on Facebook. One of my former Navy friends, who still lives in Ethiopia, commented on my post. He wrote, "Tadel, you forgot to tell everyone about your bicycle." I smiled. I had completely forgotten, but he had not. That simple comment taught me something beautiful. Sometimes the small things we do leave lasting memories in the hearts of other people. Looking back today, I realized something else. While others rested, I created. Not because anyone asked me to, but because creating has always been part of who I am. I did not yet know it, but God was quietly preparing me. The little boy who searched for wire, the young sailor searching for scrap metal, would one day continue building in completely different ways. At that time, however, I was simply a young sailor enjoying life beside the Red Sea. I had no idea that some of the greatest trials of my life were about to begin. Next week, Chapter 6, Episode 6, B, War, Survival, and the Reunion I Never Expected.